Hey y'all, welcome back to Nene Six's Kitchen. Today we're going to make homemade eclairs filled with vanilla pastry cream and coated in a white chocolate frosting on top. So the first thing we got to do is get our choux pastry made that you make your eclairs from. So the ingredients for that are, you need a half a cup of butter, which is 1 stick, 1 cup of water, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, and I'm going to put all that in my saucepan and bring it to boiling. And then, once it's boiling, I'm going to put my 1 cup of flour, all-purpose flour in all at once. You just like dump it in there, and then you start stirring really, really hard. And then, once that's done, it'll form a ball. We'll let it cool for a few minutes, and then we add 4 eggs, 1 at a time, stirring after each one. And then we'll pipe them out and bake them. So that's the first step. Then we're going to make the pastry cream that goes in the middle, and then we'll make the frosting that goes on top. So first step, I already have my oven preheating to 400 degrees. So now I get my stick of butter out, put it in my pan, and I'll put 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt in. Just a little, because it's already got some salt in the butter. And then 1 cup of water. Okay. And I always use a wooden spoon when I make these because it's just easier to stir it up and it don't stick to your spoon as bad as it would like a metal spoon. So I just turn that heat on to like a medium-high heat. And I want it to melt my butter and start boiling. So you can even turn it up high for this step. So that it'll melt your butter and everything faster. That's just my oven letting me know that it is done preheating to 400 degrees. So some of you probably made choux pastry before, but for the people who haven't, the trick is when you get it mixed together, and I'll show you in a minute, it's important that you add 1 egg at a time, stirring it really vigorously in between, and then when you're done, when you lift your spoon up like this, it should drop off of there and form like a little V shape, and that means it's ready for you to either drop it by spoonfuls or pipe it, and I'm going to pipe it. And then when you put it in your 400 degree oven, you got to make sure that you do not open the oven until they are done. You can turn your light on and look at them, but if you open the oven, it lets some of the heat out of your oven, and what will happen is that your choux pastry will not puff up like it's supposed to and rise and get big. So it's important that you leave the oven door closed during the cooking process. It's not like a cake or something like that. If you open the door, your your choux pastry is not going to puff up like it's supposed to. So as you can see, my butter is almost completely melted. It doesn't take very long for this step for the water, butter, salt mixture to start boiling. So 1 stick of butter, half a cup, 1 cup of water, 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt. And just let it melt, and then it'll come to a boil. Once it boils, then I'll add my flour in. And it doesn't take too long for this step. And choux pastry is, to me, it's not hard. I've made it many times, and I haven't ever had a problem with it not turning out. Knock on wood, I don't want to jinx myself on my video. But some people seem to have trouble with it not puffing up like it's supposed to, but I think that's because if you add too much egg or you don't get enough, then it won't have the right consistency that you're looking for. So it's about to start boiling, and then you're going to see me get an arm workout as I'm quickly mixing my flour and boiling water butter mixture together. As you can see, it's getting ready. It's starting to bubble a little bit. So it's boiling. I'm gonna turn my heat down just a touch. Now you put all your flour in at once and start stirring like this, vigorously. You're basically cooking it before you even add the other stuff. And it'll, as you do this, you can turn your heat off now. It'll form a ball. See how it's forming a ball? It's all sticking together like so. So I've just turned the heat off and I've got my ball of dough cooked. So now I gotta let it cool down for like 10 minutes. And then I can start adding my eggs one at a time for 4 of them. And then you stir real vigorously in between each addition. But you want to let it cool for the 10 minutes before you do that so that you don't cook your eggs with really, really hot choux pastry dough. So we'll be back in just a minute and show you the next part. All right, y'all. It's cooled off a little bit now. So I can go ahead and add my eggs one at a time. You add one and then you vigorously want to get it added in. And just keep stirring until you get it mixed in really good. And it takes a minute or so. It takes a little while to get it all in there. Alright. 1 down, 3 to go. Number 2. Vigorous, vigorous. And I don't normally chit chat when I'm doing it, but I don't want to bore you guys out of your mind. All right. Get it in here. 2 more. 2 more. Number 3. I'm flinging out stuff. All right. Whistle while you work, right? It'll give you good arm workout. All right. One more egg. And that's a total of 4. When I get this one in. All right, here we go again. Bicep workout. And yes, it takes a little bit to get them all mixed in good. But this is the hardest part about making choux pastry. The rest of it is really simple. It's just work, you know, arm work, but it's really not difficult. Okay. And it's gonna taste awesome when you get done. So it's worth it. Now, you see the consistency of my batter, and if I was to take some like this and flop it off. Oop, I lost a little. See how it sticks together? But it's the right consistency. Gotta clean up my mess. I don't want to step in it and go all over the floor with it. Okay. All right, now I'm gonna put it in my piping bag here, and I already have like a wide tip on my piping bag, and I'm just setting it in this cup because it's easier to put it in the pastry bag this way. So put it in, put it down close to the bottom, and this is how you can get your choux pastry to be in different shapes that you want it to be in. And that way you can pipe it out into like the eclair shape. If you wanted to make just cream puffs with it and cut your tops off, then you could just do dollops of the dough with a spoon onto your tray. But we want to make eclairs, so I want to make little oblong shapes. All right, so that's good enough. Now I have a baking sheet that I already greased, and I put parchment paper over it. So when you're going to do this, just get it to the end like that. Put a twist on your bag, and then you want to pipe it out. And they don't have to be perfect, but you want them about 4 inches long. It's just easier to make your shapes this way. You want them to be fat enough, but you don't want them to be too huge. Don't worry about it if it does that. It's not a big deal. It's choux pastry. It'll stick together when it bakes. I just want to make sure. And they look small now, but choux pastry puffs up as it cooks because of the eggs that you added at the end after you let it cool down some. So they're going to get a lot bigger. And the oven, because I'm not going to open my oven while they're cooking. And you just keep piping them out until you use up all your batter. And it's probably going to make about, let's see, 12, I think. And that's just the right amount. It gives you a dozen eclairs. If you want to get real fancy, you can use one of those star tips with your pastry bag. But I'm not trying to be that fancy today. I'm just making oblong shaped choux pastry eclairs. Now I'm gonna have some more left. So I might increase the length of this one down here a little bit. And maybe this one. Maybe this one. And maybe do one here. I'm not trying to go crazy with it. I just don't want to waste too much of my choux pastry, because I did a lot of work to get those eggs beat in there. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It made, that's 13. We don't want 13. We're going to do 14. right? We're superstitious. So we'll see how these ones on the edge turn out. Maybe they'll be all right. It should be. So now, that's good enough. So now what I'm going to do is just come over and just tap my ends to make them not be poking up anywhere. And you can use like a little bit of water on your finger if you want to, but you don't have to. I just don't want little pokes sticking up. I want it to be kind of a little bit more smooth and uniform in shape. All right, that's good enough. My oven is already preheated to 400, so now I'm gonna stick these in here, and it's 30 to 35 minutes. So at 30 minutes, I'm gonna look with my light through the glass door and see if they're ready. If they don't look like they're starting to get golden brown on top, I'll leave them 5 more minutes. But I'm not gonna open the door until I'm ready to take them all the way out. Okay, so we'll be back in a few minutes with those, and then we'll show you how to make your pastry cream that goes in the middle. All right, y'all, our eclairs from Choux Pastry coming out of the oven. They look really good. They're nice and light and fluffy. And we're gonna make the pastry cream now that we're gonna fill them with here in just a few minutes. So we're letting these cool while we make this. So the ingredients for our pastry cream are, I have 1.5 cups of milk, just regular milk, and then I have a 1/2 cup of heavy cream in this together. Then here I have a 1/2 cup of sugar and a 1/4 cup of cornstarch, so that it'll be nice and thick when we get done. So I'm gonna put that in there. Next, I have 3 egg yolks that I've beaten together. And then I have a teaspoon of vanilla and 2 tablespoons of butter that will be for the end after we're done cooking it all. So the first thing you do is put your sugar and cornstarch together in your pan, and then slowly add your milk cream mixture to mix it up good, so you don't get any lumps or anything. So I like to do a little bit and then stir it and mix it, and then add the rest. It just keeps it smooth. All right, so now I'm gonna turn this on to medium-high heat and start heating it until it's just about to start bubbling. You don't want your milk to boil because it'll curdle, but you want to get it hot as close to that as you can. So once I get it heated up to that point, then what we do is we take about a cup of the hot milk, sugar, cornstarch mixture and put it over into the beaten egg yolks and stir that up good, and then put it all back together and then heat it back up until it's pretty much almost to the boil. And then we take it off the heat and add the vanilla and the butter. So I'm not going to sit here and have you watch me stir this for that whole time. It takes several minutes for it to get that hot, but whenever we're to the point where we're ready to mix it all together, we'll be back and show y'all what it looks like. All right, y'all, so I've added my custard to my egg yolks, and I mixed it up, and then I just put it back in and stirred it all together, and as you can see, it's getting nice and thick. Oop. So now it's time to add the butter, 2 tablespoons, and stir that in, and then add the vanilla and stir that in. Because you want to do it while it's still hot so your butter will melt into it, just makes it taste rich. Put our vanilla in. And you just mix all that up, and I've turned the heat off. So it's no longer being warmed because you don't want it to curdle. So keep stirring until that butter melts. And then what I'll do after that is I will let this cool for a little while by putting some plastic wrap over the top so it doesn't make a film. And then I'll fill it into my piping bag and I will pipe it into both ends of each of my eclairs to fill them up with the pastry cream. And then I'll make the icing. So, as you can see, the butter is almost complete. Now it is gone. And so now we're just gonna let it cool. And we'll be back in just a little bit. All right, y'all. Our eclairs have cooled off. Our pastry cream has cooled off. So now we're gonna make our chocolate frosting that goes on the top. So what I've got here is like 2/3 of a cup. No, it's a 1/2 cup of butter. And I'm gonna beat that up good first till it's fluffy. All right. Now I'm gonna put 2 cups of powdered sugar into it. And I keep that just in case I need to thicken it up a little bit. And I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Your lid is a teaspoon in case you weren't aware of that. And I'm going to beat that together. And you just want it to come together good. Once it starts coming together, I need to add a little bit of cocoa. Grab my cocoa. And with the cocoa, I'm just going to put a couple of tablespoons in it. And you can add more if you want. And just a little bit of milk. And I start out slow with my milk, maybe like 2 tablespoons. And then mix that together. And it'll start to come together for my chocolate frosting. My eclairs. And I always start out with just a little bit and then I add a little bit more if I need it on my milk. So I'm going to add just a tiny bit more milk. Just barely anything. Just to make it a little bit less thick. I want it thick, but not too thick, because you want to be able to have it at spreading consistency where you can spread it over your eclairs. And there's other types of frosting that you could make for the chocolate to go on top of your eclairs, but I just like this buttercream one that I'm making here. And if you want it chocolatier, you can make it chocolatier, but I just like a milk chocolate amount of chocolate. All right, so that part's done. So now we can get ready to fill our eclairs. So now, put my milk up. I don't like to leave it sitting out. Okay. So once again, I have one of my pipe bags in here in this cup, and I'm gonna put some of my pastry cream into it so that I can start filling the eclairs. And then we'll frost them when we're done. All right, I'm not gonna put it all in there yet. It's already dripping out. which is fine. So now I'm just gonna poke a hole in the end and fill it with some pastry cream. And you can literally feel it in your hands as you're filling it up. And poke a hole in this one. So you want to do both ends so that you can get it to go all the way through to both sides. You don't want to overfill it, but you don't want to like not put enough filling in there either. You want a good amount so that they can taste it whenever they're eating their eclair. And then you just keep going like this. All right, that's 2 filled. So now, let's go ahead and ice them. Let me get out a knife. Put a little frosting on there. And like I say, if you wanted it more chocolatier, you can put more cocoa powder in yours. I just want a little bit. And you could also pipe this frosting on, but I'm not going to do that today. So you just want to get it on there. And the first one's done. Now let's do the other one. And then we'll try one for you. And then I'll finish all of these. Homemade eclairs. All right. Because they're messy, you don't have to eat them this way, but why not, right? So now, let's give it a try. That's perfect. Nice and sweet. Lots of vanilla cream filling with chocolate on top. If you enjoyed my video making homemade chocolate eclairs, please like it, share it with others. Please subscribe to my channel. Go watch my other videos. And we'll see y'all next time in Nini's Texas Kitchen.